don't want to miss out on the audio in this game, because this game has some really hype audio. Also, I'm here, so I can just make the impressions, so you get the full experience either way.
Alright, well, you guys can start and use your audio for now, and then we'll try and mess with your audio as the run goes.
So do I just watch the stream?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the stream is... you might still have to do some cropping on the stream feed, by the way.
Nah.
Very off-center.
You will arrive along the old road.
Okay, alright. Ah, there we go. Beautiful. Alright, can you guys hear me? Like, can I get a quick feedback from chat if you guys can hear me? That would be very awesome.
We can hear you, but you're very quiet on stream, even with stream turned all the way up. We don't know why that is. We're trying to fix it on our end, so bear with us.
Alright, works. I'm very... Alright, Alright, you can hear me, but apparently I'm super quiet and I'm very delayed. That's fine. All parties are super quiet. Well, that's good. That's good. At least someone is hearing me fine. I'm hearing you fine. So at least two of us are very happy right now. You get to play an awesome game. But yeah, Jay's right. Let's kill the run. Well, that's not in my power here, but I'll be there to, I don't know, be support. Are you running this with like a loading screen based timer, where it cuts out the? Yeah, but do you have like a script that automatically cuts out load times for the run, or is it just normal timer? Okay. All right. You should be able to. I'm not sure. Are they supposed to hear you or not? Getting that question in chat right now. All right. Okay. Fine. In that case, you're just supposed to hear me. I guess I'm hearing Poppy just fine. Sorry for the little one-sided conversation here on our end. Apparently, this Discord is being weird, but yeah, we're.
I see a bot.
All right. I'm just okay. Just waiting for Logic, who just came in. And is there any update? No. Okay. Someone just came in, so I'm not sure if there's anything new. Well, either way, yeah, I'm actually not seeing the countdown online yet, so there's going to be quite a bit of delay. Anyways, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. It's going to happen now on screen because I got quite a bit of
testing.
Hello, Jay. Absolutely awesome game. How are you doing? Very much well. I think that a few people actually love it. Been starting out as part of a... Jay is apparently being heard. Anyways, let me just talk a little bit about the game while Jay is just doing stuff. You can see that this is a 2D based dungeon crawler. What we have here is we have between 1 and 4 heroes. And
an ambush. Send these vermin a message.
On screen,
the rightful owner has returned, and their kind is no longer welcome.
How you doing?
Ringing ears, blurred vision. The end approaches.
Okay. Jay is apparently being hurt. Anyways, let me just talk a little bit about the game while Jay is just doing stuff. You can see that this is a 2D based dungeon crawler. What we have here is we have between 1 and 4 heroes. Two, Dismas and Reynold. The two only set heroes right at the start that you'll always get. And basically you're navigating through this map that you can sometimes see in the bottom right side of the screen. And then you got a bunch of different heroes, different classes. We got the Crusader with Reynold, for example. We got the Highwayman, the Dismas here, and there are a bunch of different classes that are going to be later introduced in the game. And basically the idea is that in each of these rooms that you can see, you're going to get a possible encounter, maybe sometimes on the way as well, and you have to deal with that encounter strategically by using the abilities of the different heroes effectively, and also working around the strengths and weaknesses of the different enemy classes. For example, here in this fight, you can see that we had a big enemy that took up 2 slots in the range, basically, of enemy slots. So if we have a hero that can only attack slot 1 or slot 2, he can only attack that first enemy. So we have to use someone like Dismas here, who can attack enemies by range. Or what we could also do is, once we beat an enemy, and this is something important I should mention here right away, if you beat an enemy in this game, they don't just despawn, get lost, they actually leave behind a corpse unless you kill them with damage over time effects or crit.
These corrupted lands.
And their corpse still being in the way, you got like 2 slots used up in the enemy lines. While you cannot actually get to the back line in most cases, so you'll have to work around these corpses and your ability smartly to actually defeat all the enemies. Based on damage stats, tankiness, sometimes you want to beat the back line first, sometimes you want to beat the front line first. I'm getting some messages on Discord. Okay.
The cost of preparedness.
Okay, so apparently...
gold. Later.
Jay, can I get like some actual instructions on what to do now? Like, tell me what buttons to press right now. Thank you. Anyways, what I was about to say. Right. Let's talk a little bit about we talked about the game. That's basically the basic principle. Right now we got 2 additional heroes. We got the Cleric and the Plague Doctor. Plague Doctor working a lot with Blight, another damage over time effect, and we got the Cleric being one of the 2 healing classes in this game if we don't talk mods. So now we actually have a full party of 4. All slots in our party are used up, and we can get into the first actual dungeon. Hello. Jay, talk to me.
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
Alright. These dungeons are...
Hello.
Alright.
Hello. I should have much less of...
I'm here now, for sure.
So, Chad, can you hear me? Can you hear me fine and loud?
I got really bad rolls on the Cleric and
I'm going to share the restream feed with you.
Okay.
Through the SRA Ninja Pirate.
So I think if you mute,
Alright.
I'm trying to figure out how I'll just move you up.
I got really bad skills on the Cleric and Plague Doctor.
Oh yeah, that's another thing I should probably talk about. So a lot of this game is random based. We got random based dungeons. We got.
Can you hear me fine and loud?
Champs or different kinds of heroes every time we finish a mission for us to pick up, and not only that, but every single one of these heroes has a base set of, I think it's 8 different abilities, might be 6, I'm not entirely sure, of which a hero can only have 4. So every time you get a new hero, you got to kind of roll on what abilities these heroes are going to have. And obviously you prefer some over others in certain constellations. And you can change those, but that requires upgrades for the Hamlet. And maybe to go back to the actual objective in this game. So there are a few different areas. There's like the swamp. There's the actual There's the ruins, which we are moving in right now. There are a bunch of different areas, and as you finish off quests in these areas, there is kind of an XP meter for this specific area. And if you finish off enough of these missions in one area, you unlock a boss. So there is 2 bosses for every area, so you need to fill your XP meter twice, basically, and then there is 3 different tiers for every boss, so each area basically has 6 bosses. So what this run is about is Necromancer percent, and a Necromancer being a boss in ruins. So basically the entire concept finish enough quests in this area, the ruins, in order to unlock the Necromancer and then beat the Necromancer. So it's a very partial category in a very, very long game. But it's also, considering how difficult this game is and how much RNG there is and how much content there is, it's a very nice, short, and very good category to just show off the entire thing. Now, going back to the game, because there's so much to talk about. By the way, Jay, if you hear me, I'm still not getting a restream through the bot. One of the core mechanics in this game is that there is not only a health meter that you can see in red under the heroes, but there is a second core mechanic, which is the stress meter. Stress meter is basically another health bar that tracks how stressed the heroes are. There is a, basically it's just a range from 0 to 200. Oh, thank you very much, Jay. Okay, this is perfect. Thank you very much. So we have a range from 1 to 200, basically, and you want to keep stress below 100 all the time. Once stress reaches 100, you'll get a random chance of your hero either becoming even more stressed or getting a slight buff, but that one's a lot more rare. I think it's like a 1/4 to 3/4 chance. But yeah. That's something very important to track of, and one thing that influences that a lot is the light meter. So you can see that there's a little torch at the top every time Poppy does a dungeon here. And keeping the light high up will lower the stress that you get. It will also lower the rewards, so it's kind of a risk-reward thing where you get a lot of rewards in terms of gold and different items for you to upgrade your hamlet. But you also get more stress. So Poppy here in this case trying to keep the stress low, as stress is kind of annoying to get rid of. So yeah, that's just a little bit about the core mechanics, but let's get talking a little bit more about the actual run. As I already mentioned, Poppy just needs to do a lot of quests in the ruins in order to unlock the boss, the Necromancer. Now, there are 3 different types of quests that you can do. You can do just a explore 90% of the room types of quests. So based on the dungeon size, you have to just visit every room except for like 1 or 2 once, and then you're done with the quest. Now, you could also already see Poppy taking advantage of that in the last run that she did, where she entered a room, there was a battle there, and she just noped out of there right away. Now, she got punished by getting every hero 20 stress for that, but she didn't have to do the entire fight, which just takes forever, but it still counted the room as explored. So you can save a lot of time by just going into a room, getting a battle there and getting out of there, at least when it's the last room. One thing you do generally want to avoid is backing through a hallway, which connects these different rooms all the way, because going backwards in this game adds a lot of stress. Now, there is a mechanic in this game where you can randomly scout. There's just a random chance every time you enter a room that you're going to scout ahead a few different rooms. And that just gives you more insight on like where may be empty rooms and where may be like stacked rooms. And that kind of quest is generally the quest that Poppy here is aiming for when she's doing these. She wants to get these clear 90% of the rooms, just preferably because they're the fastest to do. Obviously, these fights just take a lot and are just additional risk. Like the best case scenario kinda is just when you get a ton of empty rooms, nothing in between, can just rush through there. and just rush through the necromancer as quickly as possible. Like, you can already see there's a lot of RNG involved in this. There's also different quests where you have to finish 100% of the room battles. There's another quest type where you have to cleanse 3 different relics, which can also be kind of tricky. And these are the 3 different types of quests besides obvious the boss battles. And Poppy here generally aiming for the clear room, clear 90% of rooms. And another thing about these quests is that there is short, medium, and long quests for all 3 of the different quest types. And obviously, the longer a quest, the more XP you get. So we're looking for medium or long explore 90% of the room quests. Now here, you can always see Poppy here always clicking on the torch just to maximize the light. It also tells you here what maximizing the light does. It reduces stress, makes for less surprise attacks, but also gives you less loot. Now, let's talk a little bit more about combat mechanics while we're in one here. So we got a big enemy here in the front that someone like Reynold here is not able to attack the backline. But what we're going to see here a lot being used is damage over time effects. Now, we got 2 people here who are able to deal damage over time effects. That is the Highwayman, which is able to inflict bleed damage with his dagger. And then we also have the Plate Doctor, who I already mentioned is able to deal Blight. Now, Blight can be applied on either the first slot or the 2 second last slots, while the Bleed can only be applied on the first 2 slots. So obviously, the one thing that is very handy here, which Poppy does perfectly, is just stacking Blight on the back 2 enemies so that they just kind of kill themselves over time. And Poppy here trying to stack Bleed on the first enemy. And these effects actually stack, so you can see here, beautifully done, that these enemies just die by themselves without us having to do anything. And in the meantime, the Cleric can just heal, and Dismas can dish out some additional damage. And I think this is a good time to put in some donations, Jay.
That was a Claude.
In time, you will know the tragic extent of my failings. Make no mistake, we will face ever greater.
All right. Thank you, Punk.
Be ready.
How's it going, Punk, by the way?
Going great. Thank you so much for having me and Poppy here.
Yeah, really appreciate it. We have a few donations, or maybe I think one. Let me check real quick. Here we go. We got a $25 donation from Reversed 2. It says, "Thank you for doing this." Thank you for the donation. And that's all that we've received since starting this run. So continue on with your beautiful commentary.
All right. So now what we see on screen right now is the crests and the gold and the portraits and all that stuff that we found can be used in our base to upgrade things. Now, you could see Poppy spending some portraits and some crests here in order to upgrade the guild. And the guild is the place where you can not only learn new abilities. I already mentioned we have a set of 6 different abilities for each hero, but while they can only have 4 equipped at a time. So Poppy upgraded that so that she could give the heroes the abilities that are the best to use, and also upgrade existing abilities to be just straight up more effective. So yeah, now we get another 90% of room challenge. I should also mention the shop that we have at the start of the screen here. At the start of each dungeon, you can shop and get different kinds of items. This is food in case your heroes get hungry, stuff like shovels to get obstacles out of the way, and of course torches in order to increase the light meter. Also sold a relic. These kind of relics just there to buff your stats, but if we find stuff that we just don't really need, we can just sell it for more gold, get extra stuff. And yeah, right now, you could actually see it right there very firmly at the bottom right. When the dungeon spawned, Poppy got a scout, and the scout, if you look at the bottom right now, reveals what lies ahead in the dungeon. So we see to the right, for example, we got a room with a chest, and to the top, we got an empty room with nothing on the way. So Poppy knows if she goes that way, there's not going to be a single slow encounter, and she's going to get that room for free. And also knows that the bottom right room has a chest, which means that there's definitely going to be a fight in there, so we can prepare for that, get our positioning right, and get the lightning all the way up. So let's talk a little bit more about different enemies. So we already talked about like big enemies that take 2 slots, might be a little bit more tanky, but the variety of enemies in this game is actually very huge. We see here, for example, the enemy at the very far right is able to spawn these tentacles, being able to pull our backline into the front line. So now our front line is the cleric, which is more or less useless where she is right now, and our front line has gotten a little bit further into the back. We also have the enemy, second one to the right here, which is an enemy that deals almost no damage, but does an insane amount of stress damage to the team. So these are the kind of scenarios where you actually have to worry more about your stress meter than you have to worry about your health meter, because this enemy here right now, even though it has oh, that was a very nice dodge, that was very important. They're going to die next turn because they have double stack blight. But you can see our good guy Reynold here, the Crusader, is already at like 70. I think it's like 70 stress he has. The cleric here at the front line, not where she's supposed to be, already like 80 stress. And again, if this turns up to 100, stuff's getting a lot more dangerous. Generally, you want to avoid dispositioning as much as possible. There are actually some classes that you can get in your team that kind of play around positioning. So you got some heroes that play around just jumping back and forth from like the very front line to the very back line. So yeah, you can see Poppy now correcting the actual role assignment here, getting the cleric back to the back line where she can heal, because again, different abilities require different slots in the range. And oh, that's very unlucky. So we already talked about surprises. If you have a very high light meter, the chance of surprising, of getting surprised are very low, while surprising the enemy line is very high. Now, if you surprise an enemy, that means that you will get an entire free turn before they can do anything. But if the enemy surprises you, then you get thrown into a random positioning. This is the worst case scenario because we have the immobile Crusader, the tanky Crusader that cannot move around very nicely, all the way in the back. And we got the squishy back line in the front. And this is just terrible because we got a super stressed out cleric now, which is now at death's door. So every time she gets damaged now, there's a good chance that she's dead and we can never get her back. Plus, she is stressed. And if someone is stressed, there's a chance that they just randomly start hurting themselves. And, you know, she could just kill herself right in this moment. So this is not a very friendly game. This was just an insane amount of bad luck happening here. And if this one needs to die now, because if this one doesn't die, he doesn't attack the cleric, which is good. Okay, we actually survived. This is very good. Jay, 1 second. We go back to default formation and we have to heal our cleric with food. We cannot do this indefinitely, and we can only use your healing spells in fights, so we can only get very small amounts of healing in. And this next fight is going to be very crucial to healing the cleric back up, which is going to be insanely difficult now that she's so super stressed. And Jay, you can... I think this is a good opportunity to come in because we already had this fight. I think Poppy should be fine here.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so we have a $5 donation from Derp. It says gaming. We have a $10 donation from Phoenix Down 23. It says, thanks for all the hard work putting this together. Thank you guys for those donations. And Punk, I'll give it right back to you.
All right. So this was actually very, very lucky so far. So we had this terrible setup with a stressed cleric that was super low. we got a surprise attack on the enemy, which means we got our free turn. Poppy already stacked Blight on the enemy, so the very far back sharpshooter there is already going to die. We got Bleed on the front line, and we also had a bunch of dodges on our team. So this will be an opportunity where Poppy can actually heal a bit. Cleric even got a crit, which is great, because crit heal more, deal more damage, and also reduce stress. So this is absolutely perfect. And yeah, you can heal through fights like this. You just need to get lucky, have a good comp, and play it well. But yeah, this was kind of a roller coaster of a mix of unfortunate events into very fortunate events here. You can also see that we do not have any bandages right now to stop the bleeding. So we actually have to use all our food rations right now just on healing, which is not optimal. Generally don't tend to do that if it's not necessary, just because there are random events going through the dungeon where your characters will ask you for food. And if you do not have any food in that moment, your characters will stress out even more. And we're kind of okay right now with just one character being at max stress. This is already bad because, like, usually when you go back to the base, oh, okay, we had some food left. I didn't see that. Usually when you go back to the base, your characters will reduce a decent amount of stress, and you'll be kind of fine just going back with them into the next dungeon. But here we have our cleric at over 100 stress, which means that she's only going to be reduced back to 100 stress and not going to lose her debuffs. So we kind of have to put her into the asylum, for example, just to reduce the stress again, unless there's some crazy strat that I'm aware of. But yeah, the last part of this dungeon, pretty good. Got a lot of empty rooms, which is, again, generally what we want because they get the same XP for it, but clear the dungeon out a lot faster, and of course it's with a lot less risks. So yeah, we unlocked new characters. Here we got the Houndmaster and the Antiquarian. Both not characters that we want right now. We got another trinket here that we're just going to sell right away, just in order for us to, stay fluid. And yeah, here you can see, just diving right back into the dungeon, the little skull signal, the little skull emote there, signalizing us that we're on our way to a boss. And we got the Necromancer here. Boom, first boss of the game. Run is almost over, but this is still risky because, again, we got our stressed out cleric. So this is not a perfect start, but something Poppy can very well deal with. So let me just go through how this works. We got a generally large dungeon ahead of us, randomly generated. And at one of the... Oh, God, okay. So the bosses, based on the areas, always spawn at different points. For the ruins, we usually tend to have these kind of snake-ish laid out dungeons. And if you know the dungeon layout from the start, you can kind of already guess where the boss is going to spawn. In this case, it's just going to be at this very dead end of this long hallway that we have to traverse. And the bad thing about this is that, really, again, RNG being a thing here, that sometimes if you get lucky and you get maybe some branches in this dungeon, that you are actually able to just skip more rooms. But in this case specifically, we just got this long hallway where we cannot do any shortcuts, and we just have to deal with whatever the dungeon is going to throw at us. Most specifically, we'll have to deal with any kind of encounter that the dungeon is going to throw at us. So really, we're just hoping for very, very little encounters, and yeah, just dealing with whatever the game throws at us. I should also mention another mechanic in this game, which is campfires. Campfires is just kind of like making rest in D&D. Let's see. Okay, we got... Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if Poppy's going to work with that. We got a treasure room here. These treasure rooms, obviously they take time to get, but they have some of the strongest trinkets in the game. So I wonder if we're going to take this risky. Where was I? I don't remember, actually. But yeah, at the end of this long hallway, we're going to have the Necromancer boss fight. Hope to get as little stressed out as possible. Oh, campfires, of course. So there are a few mechanics to reduce stress in this game. Yeah, very well. We can get crit strikes. that will reduce our stress level. We can disarm traps, which will reduce our stress level. There are some abilities with certain heroes that reduce stress. And most specifically, there is the campfire mechanic where you rest at a specific room, you get some of your health back, and if you eat a full meal, you'll get your stress lowered. And just as every hero has 6 different abilities in fights, every hero has specific abilities for campfires, and these specific abilities can be used to give your party all kinds of different buffs. It can reduce stress. It can heal your party. It can give you like an attack or defense buff for like the next 3 battles. And this is a terrible encounter because this is the AoE stress guy that we really don't want to meet with a almost max stressed out party here. Really bless RNG for this sequence because we got 2 stress dealing enemies here. One thing I guess I didn't mention yet, I mentioned there's a range from 0. Oh, this is awesome. This is really awesome. Okay, so usually it's always bad when your hero hits 100 stress, because usually they get a huge debuff like the cleric did. But when they hit 100 stress and get something like Stalwart, like our Plague Doctor here, that's very good, because this is basically a buff. The stress is going to instantly reduce by like 60, which is great for our Plague Doctor because he's very unlikely to die from a heart attack now. And he's also going to, just like the Cleric is randomly saying and doing bad things that demotivate the party, the Plague Doctor is now going to randomly say and do good things that are going to lower the stress of our party and are just generally a good buff. It's a lower chance of happening, but like right here, if you look at that, our Plague Doctor is just randomly making up for stress, which is really, really awesome and one of the best things that could have happened in that situation. We still have to slightly worry about Reynold because he's really close to that 100 mark, but we got the 2 stress-dealing enemies out of the way, so now we can only really get a physical damage, and as long as they're not doing crits, we do not have to be worried about stress here at the moment. So yeah, our Plague Doctor here really is saving the day. Got another crit on Reynold, going to reduce stress even further. And this is actually pretty good. One thing I should mention, just to be complete here on this train of thought, if they actually hit 200 stress, they can actually die to a heart attack. So what happens is you hit 200 stress, and your entire health bar instantly depletes to 0. And if it hits 100 stress again, because you're at death's door, you can just die from stress. So this is one of the reasons why this game is so fantastic and why you should absolutely play it, besides being so stupidly hard, is because of this amazing stress mechanic. And the one thing that I'm like constantly talking over right now, and I'm very sorry for that, is the awesome music and narrator in this game, who's just absolutely insane and ambient. And this is just a really, really cool game. You should definitely check this out if you're into anything like dungeon crawlers, roguelikes, and if you're into Cthulhu, you will really like this game. But yeah, we're just dealing with this fight here again. Corpse mechanic, just kind of getting into our way every time we kill an enemy with a non-crit and a non-damage over time effect. Enemy is just gonna stay there, but we already got blight stacked on the back line, so they're just gonna die as soon as it's their turn. Do not have to worry about the corpses in the front line. And we are about 5 rooms away from the boss. I guess I should talk a little bit about the boss in advance. And I'm sorry that I'm talking so much, but yeah, we're not going to click that thing that Poppy just ran by, because that's going to spawn another boss fight. Yeah, there are boss fights before the boss fights sometimes. It's just random boss fights that you just stumble upon. The Necromancer is going to summon minions every turn. And yeah, that's basically it. Just summon skeletons. And if we have another thought at the frontline backline thing, it starts in the front line, but since it spawns the skeletons in front of him, we basically only have two options. Option A is we have enough backline damage to just deal with the Necromancer once it hits the backline, or we have enough frontline damage to actually clear everything that he spawns in front of us. And that's something where damage over time really, really helps, is if we clear the skeletons with Blight and have them kind of auto-clean themselves. Now, one thing I should mention in this game is that, that's so nice of you. Sorry. One thing I should mention about this game and why it's so awesome is that it actually has a lot of thought about what enemies should be immune to which damage type. So, for example, skeletons obviously are immune to bleed damage because how are they supposed to bleed? So, for example, if you go into into the ruins, it doesn't necessarily make sense to put a lot of heroes there that have bleed damage. But on the other hand, Blight is something that is very effective against skeletons. So the Plague Doctor, most particular, is going to be something very important here because skeletons are so weak to Blight damage, while the Highwayman is going to be better off dealing a lot of damage with his ranged weapons or his high crit chances, which the Highwayman is also very good for. While obviously the Cleric is there to deal some backline damage if required and heal the party, and the Crusader just a tanky melee damage source. Generally, this is kind of what you would expect from your average D&D party. You got a tank frontliner, you got a crit rogue, you got a healer, and you got someone to deal like poison damage. Very classic. And here again, so good for us that the Plague Doctor is able to just randomly remove stress, get like bonus actions and all that kind of stuff. And this has been, I'm not sure about encounter spawn rates, I'm not that deep into the speedrun, but from a raw casual perspective, this has been a really good dungeon for Pop. You got a lot of surprise attacks in, a lot of crits from our side, and really making a good way into this boss area. So yeah, we're almost at the boss, just clearing up these last skeletons here. This one survived with 1 HP. That's kind of unfortunate. And obviously something I should mention, damage over time effects are very good on the Necromancer himself. Necromancer actually not immune to bleed, so we could stack bleed and blight both on the Necromancer, and you can stack everything up to 3 times. So if you have like blight damage that deals like 4 damage and that stacks up to 3 times, you could just deal 12 damage per turn just in Blight, and then additional to that, like maybe up to 6 damage for Bleed. You get like 20 damage for free per turn, plus your additional damage. So with enough finesse, you can make really quick work off the Necromancer. Actually, Jay, I'd like to do that just after the boss fight and after the run, if that's fine, because the Necromancer is something I'd like to talk through, but we're almost done with the run anyway, so I think you're better off just taking your time there. During the pause. But yeah, you can already see a Necromancer just by himself going to start off right away stacking Bleed and Blight, just like Poppy's showing off here. And we got these 7 damage in just right from the start, just already dealing and ticking down. And we got the small skeleton here that Poppy's just going to take care of. And we're going to keep adding modifiers to the Necromancer with our Bleed and Blight. You can also see the corpse mechanic here again. Even though we killed the skeleton, it's still there in the way, so we technically have to clear it. We got Selfish on Reynold, which kind of sucks, but I think at this point we're kind of fine. Like, we're not really at much risk of getting to 200 stress at this point. And yeah, already see here stacking Blight and Bleed twice already each. And this is already 14 damage per turn, and it's going to last for another 3 turns. Necromancer here dealing a little bit more stress. And this is also another nice thing, which I completely forgot about. It doesn't necessarily make sense to clear the corpses, because the Necromancer is not going to raise an additional undead if there's already a corpse there. So if you have a corpse just laying around, the... Oh, and who got Fearful? Okay, so we got, for all 4 champs eventually hit 100 stress. We got 1 good outcome, 3 bad outcome. That's exactly average. But Poppy here, really, like in a casual playthrough, you probably want to avoid this, but Poppy here with the objective of just clearing this dungeon, doing so great and just ignoring all that, stacking damage modifiers on the boss, and just doing damage. Now, again, sometimes it can be a little rough if you got too many stressed champions, just because they will do random things. Like sometimes they'll do an attack that you didn't order them to do, or they'll hurt themselves, or they'll reposition, and basically you just have to have a wasted turn. But you can see the Necromancer is now 27 HP. We have damage modifiers stacked of 16 HP. So if we just deal a little bit more damage on the back line here, we can basically ignore the front line and just do the bleed, let the bleed and the blight do what it needs to do. So Dismas here, sorry, Reynold here being completely useless because he can only damage the front line, but Dismas here, unfortunately missed there. But I think that should be enough. Not into okay, it's actually not. But next turn he is dead. So as long as Poppy survives now, this fight is already won because the blight is going to deal enough damage. There is nothing that can heal the Necromancer. He doesn't have any healing abilities. So now it's just a matter of waiting out and not having all 4 heroes die, which would be tragic, but not possible really. And the run is actually going to end as soon. And there we go. Okay, Necromancer is dead.
It's so time. I accidentally advanced my splits earlier.
All right. Okay. Well, anyways, we're back to the heirloom, and we got GG to Poppy. A great run. Very, very well done. Yeah.
I was so excited when I got that stalwart.
Yeah, the stalwart.
For that made everything so much better.
Yeah, that came in really clutch, but it worked out so well how that did, and I'm really happy that we got to see that mechanic too, because it just really. It was so insane how your cleric almost died there in that one surprise attack too. But
I got that crit on the cleric, and I was like, "That's it. This is done. That's the run."
Like generally, there was a lot of bad RNG in this run when it comes to like rolls and all that. But you made it work, and this is the great. I think we can agree this is the great thing about this run. Like while it is hard and while there is a lot of RNG, you sometimes get it both ways, and that's what makes this game fair in a way, I guess. But yeah,
fair.
Fair, right. Well, anyways, great run.
Thank you, and thank you so much for commentating, Punk. I was
very glad you asked me. It was a pleasure. And yeah, I'm actually going to go to bed now because I got an exam tomorrow. But you guys have a lot of fun with the marathon.
Sleep well and good luck.
Make sure to drop a follow to Poppy, and I think I'm going to give it over to Jay now for more donations. So cheerio.
Great, thank you both. We're going to be switching over to the intermission now to set up for the Ori and the Blind Forest Plando Stay Away All Skills by Cosmic Angel. It's going to be co-commentated by Dr. Tuin. I'm going to read off these few donations that we have just received. We have a $11 donation from Phoenix Down 23. This one is from Phoenix Down's wife. Thank you so much, Phoenix Down's wife. We have $5 from Nils Bloodaxe. Successfully defended my PhD thesis today, passing along the good vibes. Congratulations, Nils, and thanks so much for the $5. Cheese Reaver with $5 says, "Choo choo, all aboard the Dono train." We are $3 away from $5,000, ladies and gentlemen. And Chad 78 donates $20. It's not much, but hope it helps. Yes, every little bit counts. Appreciate it. So we're going to quickly move over to the intermission. We're going to get Cosmic set up, and then we're going to bring it right back. So we'll be right there momentarily.